Hi, and good morning. I'm actually filming this, and it's after 10 o'clock at night, but I'm not releasing this till in the morning. I had to deal with a internet power outage. So a lot of the videos that I have and that I've uploaded, I'm going to be releasing them Friday morning on February the 20th. So here we are. Nigel, Barker, the Jays go on the Sherri Shepard show, honey. And they speak out following the docuseries and urge Tyra Banks to answer questions asked about the show. Nigel Barker says it's okay to admit you made a mistake, but they have to also admit that they were part of the show too. That they let things slide too. They made comments too. There were coming up judges. There was everybody's more worried about what would have happened if I would have done this and if I would have said that. But what if you would have? It would have saved Shandi from what she had to deal with. It would have saved Kenya Hill from what she had to deal with. On multiple occasions, someone was assaulted on this show, and we don't even know of the other scenarios that have not been talked about. And so Sherri Shepard does a video. I don't know if this is before the interview with them or afterwards, but she goes off in a way and a tirade about you don't understand what shows have to do. Not understanding that even though you might not have control, you have control and cognizance to control somebody from being assaulted on your show, ma'am. And that's why I understand why you are probably getting your show canceled when you don't think before you speak and maybe gather your facts.
Stand when we are in power, the battles we got to fight that you will never know about. Never. To keep a show on the air, there are things that we have to do that people will tell us. If you want to stay on the air, this is what you got to do. And we got to weigh the options. And sometimes we make bad decisions and we look up and we go, in hindsight, maybe I should not have done it. I've been up all night watching Netflix's documentary about Tyra Banks and America's Next Top Model. When I tell you I was hooked, I understand why people are mad. I do understand. But I also say you have to understand the time that this all happened was in 2003. Reality TV was a wild, wild west back then. Every show was trying to outdo it.
It doesn't matter what year an assault happened, ma'am. It happened. And something should have been done. Before this show was on
the air. We had people that were eating.
Before this show got on air, it was Tyra's baby. She came up with the idea with Ken Mark, and she went to the shows to promote wanting this. She was over everything. The girls have but so much admitted this. So no, ma'am.
Rats on Survivor. We had people getting in Nevada spiders on Fear Factor. Simon Cowell was telling people they sucked to their faces. I cannot forget that Tyra that was a young black woman trying to make it in the reality TV game. Like it just, now we have a plethora of TV shows. We're not naive to what goes on behind the scenes in reality shows today. So we're trying to compare a time today that we know a lot to a time when there was nothing like this show on the air.
Yeah, but you don't get to mentally, physically, and emotionally abuse somebody and call it that it was that kind of a television show back in the day. Ma'am, what do you... So you are excusing abuse and assault on shows and verbal abuse and then calling it that these were the shows. Then people ate bugs and slept outside and slept on the waters. Like, no, man, this is not that. This is not the same as being assaulted and going back and telling somebody. These girls literally went back and told Tyra, and Tyra would find a way to have a complaint about them, to gaslight them into shutting up. She did that to Ebony also when Ebony was being gyrated about her hair, ma'am. And instead of Tyra helping her, she called her ashy, saying that that's what the other people were telling her about Ebony, instead of helping her come up with a solution and letting her know that these women were talking about writing in her hair, and they gave her 3 bald spots. Yeah, I understand exactly why you're losing your show.
We're not taking into account the battles that this black woman had to fight just to stay on the air for other people to come on the air. In the documentary, they said no network wanted to pick up the show except UPN. Everybody said no. As a woman who has pitched a bunch of shows and tried to get her own talk show, I understand that. Let me tell you something. I bet you if Heidi Klum had shopped the show around and every model looked like Gigi Hadid, it'd have been picked up immediately. Immediately.
What does that have to do with the assaults on the show? I'm getting bored.
There's a lot of stuff that we did not know back then that would not have happened if this show aired now. People are blaming Tyra for allowing them to cut a black woman's hair wrong. I remember that when they cut the girls from New York and she was bald and they cut it. She had bald patches. We didn't have the sensitivities behind the scenes back then that we do now. Nowadays, if you have a black talent.
Sherri, they call her ashy. No neck, are you listening? They call her ashy also when she tried to go back and tell Tyra what happened. There's also more that happened behind the scenes that these girls haven't been able to talk about, that they're talking about on their social medias. Why are you skipping over the points that matter, that happened to these shows? How that girl was emotional and verbally abused. You don't get it. You're emotionally disconnected.
They make sure to get black stylists. That's what we had to fight for to get. What people don't understand is the battles that this woman probably had to fight just to keep it inclusive. She came to them saying, I want a diverse cast. I want black women. I want Latin women. I want plus size women. And everybody said no because the industry standard looked like one thing. So she couldn't protect everybody, nor did she own the show. Now, and I'm not saying that the show didn't do terrible things because it did. But I just want to think about it in the context.
So y'all just a slave to the rhythm, too scared to step up and step forward, to speak out and up about things because nobody would accept my show because I'm black, I'm this, I'm that. When you never know, when you step out on faith, the right person at the right time will pick it up when they see you stood up for yourself and fought purple that for you show leadership, then leadership will reward you, ma'am. That's why you're losing your show. You lost that ability. You didn't show leadership.
Of which it happened. And also there was another thing. There was no social media back then to hold people accountable. Social media is good and it's bad. But what social media does is it advocates for people. If there had been, because like Shandi said, nobody gave me a cell phone. Shandi was off because she had slept with somebody other than her boyfriend, was in a jacuzzi with other men. They would have, now, if that show was on, they would have had an intimacy coach. They would have had.
When you're drunk, you are not capable of giving someone consent. She said that everything that happened afterwards was a blur, which means she was out, which means she didn't give consent for anybody to be intimate with her, for them to call it cheating. That was assault. Sherri, be careful. It's a good thing your show is going off, and maybe that's why you choosing to snap and lose your mind now and just sound ridiculous.
psychologists and therapists on the show to help these girls. Back then, they didn't know about any of that. So that's what I'm saying. It was a different.
Yes, they did. They've actually had counselors on the show. And after a while, Tyra and them wasn't making it a big thing. All they wanted the girls to do was be messy. The producers were instigating dramas and fights. So they wasn't making therapy and counseling accessible for those girls. And the girls tried to leave the show for their sanity. And the show threatened them in a way that they couldn't leave. And they also wouldn't let them use phones to call home. And when they did, they would record everything that they did. Okay?
Time, and there were battles that she was fighting, because you always think about the long game. I want this show to stay on the air. I want more black women to come on. I want more plus size women. You remember Isis? When Isis came on the show, Isis was trans, I believe. She would not have made it on season 1. They would not have let her be on that show. You remember Winnie Harlow? Mama, you know I know you. I'm passionate about what I'm saying. Winnie Harlow is an amazing woman with vitiligo. Back then, in the first season, she probably would not have made it. But what we know now, we love the trans community. We accept our skin now. But back then, when I tell you the battles, people don't understand. When we are in power, the battles we gotta fight that you will never know about. Never. To keep a show on the air, there are things that we have to do that people will tell us, if you want to stay on the air, this is what you got to do. And we got to weigh the options.
Well, weigh the option and choose what's best for you. You're a grown-ass woman. So you mean to tell me that you had the way to dance with the devil to make a thing work? So you are here sacrificing, I see. And going with the get along game. Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
And sometimes we make bad decisions and we look up and we go, in hindsight, maybe I should not have done it. But I just want to open the door and give a platform to people who look like me.
While sacrificing those young girls' innocence. Okay. So glad she's done. So she has a show later on where she interviews with Nigel, Jay Manuel, and Jay Alexander. And so here's the first video on that.
Felt that Tyra did not take accountability. It's been a lot of backlash online and everywhere. What should Tyra do?
Well, wow, yeah.
Actually, she answered the questions.
She should answer the questions that they ask her.
I mean, look, I'm not her publicist.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure who her publicist is, but that being said, you know, I think the reality is, and how we approached it, is just to be absolutely honest with it, and it's okay. It's okay to admit that you made a mistake. It's okay to say, I'm sorry. It's okay to go, it wasn't right. And I know that, and we all know that. None of us are perfect. We were trying. There were lots of mistakes. Some things perhaps were even forced errors, right? As in, you know, what happened with Shandi, what happened with various contestants that shouldn't have happened.
I remember that day like it was yesterday, watching the show. And Shandi, in the documentary,
Part 2.
Expressed her pain over a sexual encounter that was filmed. Now, Mr. J, did you ever feel like the show went too far?
Well, you know, for me, that Shandi scene was just devastating. She was the girl that in my mind, I was ready for her to win.
Right.
You know, you even see it in the doc. We're shooting in Verona, and she's winning.
She had it.
She's winning. She had it. I was in the production office when we got word of what was going down. I was devastated in the moment. And what I'd like everyone to just think about for a minute, because Shandi says this in her interview, she said, someone said, hey, how about the guys come over? Now, as someone who worked on that show, I could tell you the girls couldn't plan the next 5 minutes of their lives. They were following a directive. So who is the someone? That's the question. I'll leave it out there. I kind of know roughly, but the point is someone presented that. But
So Nigel, and being
A producer, since they instigate and initiate everything else.
did you ever feel like I didn't do enough to protect, or you tried to do as much as you could?
Well, I mean,
you didn't know about it.
I so no. So that's the thing. Ultimately, as judges, we were actually kept quite sort of separate from what was happening. They wanted that on purpose, so that their everyday lives sort of played out outside of it, and then we would come to judging, and we would just see their best photograph. We would kind of get, they would tell us about what they did. They did a photo shoot. They visited this. They did go-sees. We wouldn't know what happened behind closed doors, as you wouldn't in real life. If you go to a job interview, you don't tell everyone all your dirty laundry,
Right, yeah, right.
You basically go in there and you try and get the job. That's what that moment was for, right? I watched the show like everybody else did and saw what happened to Shandi on TV the way the rest of the world did. I didn't know the behind the scenes, all the things, the fact that production allowed this, didn't allow that. And because there was no social media, it didn't get out to the world. However, watching that now, I don't care whether they signed away the rights
So he basically said in that interview, because I missed and deleted the freaking video for that. And it was, I don't know why. Why, girl? Why did you delete this video? He basically was saying, I don't care for whatever reason. That shouldn't have happened. Oh my God. And I agree. I am so glad that they are speaking more passionately than they did in the Netflix documentary, if you ask me. I think Nigel is speaking out. He's feeling away for sure. He's feeling very passionate and emboldened to get it out there. He feels like they are getting thrown. You could tell by the way the way that they're feeling, not acting, that they're getting the bulk of this. At the same time, yes, you're getting the bulk of it because yes, it's looking like you participated in things, and yes, they did, and yes, they're unlike Tyra, they are taking accountability. So really, you can't get mad at that. Once somebody takes accountability and they have spoken up, then it's pretty much that's that on that. So I don't have the video. That sucks. And so somebody else from America's Next Top Model had something to say. She looks great. Also, one of the other contestants of the show, Ferranda, and she says, to be clear, nobody took accountability. Miss J, Mr. J, and Nigel all had a heavy hand in the abuse and manipulation. Saying it was my job is not an excuse. See Nazi Germany for further reference. Oh, their only problem with the terror is that the system turned on them too. Oh, that's deep. And that's what she had to say about that. And she is correct. I would concur that they are mad because the it hit the fan on them too, and they wasn't expecting that. And now they're trying to shine a light on some things that they should have corrected in the beginning. So you see, Sherri, you don't just sit there and make a mistake and as an adult when you're responsible for somebody's child on the show, ma'am. You're responsible. Tyra was responsible for people's children, for people's daughters on this show. And things happened that shouldn't have happened. Somebody could have hurt themselves. What if Shandi would have unalived herself? That episode at the time, me being around their same ages, that could have made her do something that would have sent a ripple through that show. And it's only by the grace of God that she didn't. That's what they're missing. So when they say if this show was out now, it would be this way or that way. No, if that show was out now, the Shandi now compared to the Shandi wouldn't be here. And I put bank on that. She wouldn't be here because the climate that we live in today would have been even more brutal to her. They wouldn't have wanted to hear it. On Facebook now, they're going in, nothing but the men. They don't see it as an assault. They don't see a girl that is drunk and can't give consent as assault. They never learned that. So that is the problem. And that's why you don't have a show. And on that note, I'm out of here.